Alrighty, guys, we are here. It is time again for a brand new set of banners, and that is the Nine Tails Fox banners. We've got Shihwa, we've got Soha, and we've got Arang. We're not going to cover too much about Cammy and Camilla here, as they're LD Nat 5. So, of course, if you get them, that's awesome. They both look pretty good. This one right here, Camilla, is by far the best damage dealer in the game. She does more damage than Argan. So we'll kind of go over those skills here in a second. So she's phenomenal if you're able to get her. But let's look at the ones that you are really asking about. And I get a ton of questions in chat. And it's always on day one, too, right? Day one chat, hey, who should we summon for? And it's like, I don't know, because I don't have any of them yet. And I've seen very little usage of them. So it's hard to really tell which ones are the best. The best thing we can do is check out other streamers, other YouTubers, or check out some of our friends or guildmates that have summoned these monsters and ask them about their performance inside both PvE and in the PvE sphere. So it's very early to tell still whether or not that these are going to be meta, whether or not they're going to be game changing. I think there is some potential here with these three monsters, but I will go over those thoughts individually. Biggest thing that I always suggest when a new banner comes around is wait. Especially if you're a free-to-play or a low spender, right? And you've got to really decide what banners to go on. Wait on them. We can wait a week or two, let the meta kind of figure itself out, let some other YouTubers, let some whales figure it out, and see what the performance is before you make those big decisions. Another thing to have you well aware of is that you can actually get pieces. As you can see down here, I've already got 3 Soha pieces from the exchange center. So they come into the exchange center as well. So in a couple weeks, if you exchange your pieces properly, you'll be able to get these guys anyway. So don't get that FOMO, right? Don't feel like you're going to be missing out on a banner if you don't summon on that banner, okay? I'm still debating myself whether I'm going to be summoning on any of these banners. So just keep that in mind. All right, let's talk about them. I'm going to give you my thoughts. I've really been digesting a lot of other content. I've been watching some Korean players and really trying to figure out what's going to be the best decision for my account, and then also relay some of my thoughts to you, especially when it comes to PvP. As you guys know from my live streams, I'm very PvP focused. So that's really where I'm coming out with most of these monsters. So let's check out the monsters here. I know you've already probably seen this from other content creators like Childish, Sizzo, Barcode. So I'll have a link to all of their videos down below. So best thing I can suggest is go digest as much content as you can and then make that decision for yourself. So let's head over. We'll start with Shihwa here, which is the Fire Nine Tails Fox. By the way, their design is phenomenal. This is an awesome design for these monsters. So if I do get one, I'm really hoping that I can at least get one of these. So let's check this one out. From what I've seen and from what I've digested so far is that Shihwa is a PvE monster. Mostly, a lot of people are comparing her to Vertiheel, and specifically comparing her to Vertiheel in the new raid, the Tree of Heroes raid, which very few people are actually doing on a consistent basis because it is a high-level raid. Mostly because of this skill right here. If no critical hit lands, then she applies crit resistance down. And as we know from the Tree of Heroes, he has, in several of his forms, he has 80% crit resistance up. This kind of skill is always useful in that particular boss fight. This one right here is Phantom Light Meditation. So we've got some attack here. She adds Phantom Light to herself. It's kind of like a thirst effect, right? And as you gain more of this Phantom Light, depending on how much you have, she will do more stuff. So in this case, if the caster, which is the monster here, has 6+ Phantom Light, use Meditation 1 time. And that's going to increase your move speed to your team members, okay? So that's going to be the people right inside of your team. So basically what that means, it's not going to apply the move speed to anybody else in your party. So it's not going to apply the move speed to the other members of your party. Then you can also see down here, so you got the move speed up. Per caster's Phantom Light, you have damage dealt increase. So, the more Phantom Light you have, the more damage that you do. And when you cast it, you get 6 down, 6 Phantom Lights down. So you're getting Phantom Light and then you're spending it. You're getting it and you're spending it. And then there's some elemental advantage stuff here. If the target is a fire creature, increase the ultimate gauge by 20%. It's pretty nice. If the target is a water creature, increase mana by 1. If the target is a wind creature, level 1 skill acceleration for 5 seconds. If the target is light or dark, level 1 mana regen speed up. So all of these are really nice. And honestly, I can see why people use her in that Tree of Heroes raid in a replacement for Vertiheal. Spoiler alert, I still think Vertiheal is better. But it's not just this crit resist down. It's also that she does quite a few other things here for each version of the boss. As you know, the boss is a fire boss, he's a water boss, he's a wind boss, and then he's also a light boss later on. So she's able to do something beneficial for each one of the boss's phases. Skill 3 here. So again, it's a massive wall of text. But again, you give yourself Phantom Light, which is always good. You do damage, crit damage up, right? So crit damage up on yourself for 16 seconds. And then if the caster has 6+ Phantom Light, you use that meditation once again. And the meditation is the exact same skills from before. You get the move speed up, which is pretty helpful in that boss. And all these same benefits against the other elements. So pretty nice. And then let's look at her passive. Applies Phantom Light to herself every certain time during battle. So every 5 seconds, she gets 1 Phantom Light. So she's going to have, especially in a raid boss, she's going to have Phantom Light all the time. So you will always be casting this Phantom Light meditation. So what are my thoughts on this particular monster and her usages? I really don't see her being used in PvP much at all. Every 5 seconds, she needs time to build up that Phantom Light. And then once she does use it, they are helpful, but they seem more helpful like in a long-term situation over the course of 5 to 10 minutes, much like a raid would be. And so overall, also, it's just like, it seems really weird. Like, look at her book effects. They go into crit rate, but you're not supposed to land critical hits, right? So that doesn't quite make sense. So you're not supposed to land critical hits in order to land this crit resistance down. So do you build her 100% crit rate, or do you build her 0% crit rate, right? It's really hard to decide there. I guess you could just build her with, she is a damage dealer, right? So it's like you want her to do damage. Maybe you just build her on a full attack build and she does damage that way. But I don't know how much we could rely on this level 1 crit resist down if a critical hit doesn't land. Now, this is a 100% rate, so she is landing attacks all the time. So if you have her at like 80% crit rate or something like that, one of those attacks every now and then is going to land a crit resist down. But as I've found, that crit resist down debuff goes away pretty fast inside of the boss. So it's like, I don't know if she's going to be a consistent dealer of crit resist down. It's kind of hard to say. But yeah, overall, I also want to show you guys a picture that I had. All right, so I wanted to show you guys this one. This was a screenshot that I found on the Discord, the official Discord. As you can see, this was from the Korean servers. They've had her for a while. The #1 speed team uses Shihwa. Now, the runs have gotten significantly faster since then, so don't necessarily take this as like the must-have Shihwa sort of thing for this boss. But what I do want to say is that while she might be good in this particular raid, and if you have her, she might be really good for this raid. The problem is that these are typically top-level players, whales, people are spending money on the game. They've got god-tier runes, god-tier equipment, god-tier monsters, and book levels. So it's hard to say whether or not Shihwa would be good for you or I as a more common sort of players, right? As more pleb player. We don't really have those sort of resources to take advantage of some of these other monsters. So just a thought I wanted to put out there about that. So I'm going to let you guys make your decision on this one, okay? All right, so let's move over next to Soha. Soha, in my opinion, has some of the most easy to understand and promising skill sets for PvP specifically. And if there's any monster that's going to shake up the meta, I think it's this one, okay? So Soha is a support monster. And very simply, her first one does damage. Her skill 2, let's get into her skill 2. She has the same Phantom Light mechanic, where she builds up Phantom Light over time. She builds up Phantom Light from using her different skills. So recovers HP of the ally target. If the nine-tailed fox has a certain level of Phantom Light or above, additionally, she recovers more HP. She consumes it. So she goes up in Phantom Light, she stacks it, and then she consumes it to heal. So let's see the specifics down here. Recovers 31% of max HP. It's not bad. Recovers 10% per caster's Phantom Light level. So she's going to output quite a bit of healing. So if caster has level 4 Phantom Light, recover HP equal to 11.4% of max HP, and then level 10 Phantom Light down. So it's going to consume all of her Phantom Light in order to use this skill to its fullest potential. Per caster's Phantom Light level, recovery given up 10%. So depending on what level your Phantom Light is and you use this skill, you're going to get that little buff that gives you more recovery the next time that she heals. So lots of good healing stuff going on there. Next, skill 2 here applies Phantom Light to itself, then recovers the HP of nearby allies and removes beneficial effects on enemies within the area. Applies additional Phantom Light to itself if it successfully removes a beneficial effect. I think this skill is the one that's going to make her meta, perhaps, right? And I throw that term around, but I don't want to throw it around too loosely. This is the skill that really makes her shine, and that is that she's healing, obviously on her skill 1 and skill 2, but she's also removing beneficial effects. And most of our meta healers right now don't have a strip. The only one that's really consistent would be Juno, right? Juno is the only one that really is consistent. Now, as far as water healers go, I can't think of one right now that is a meta water healer that also strips, right? So let's go ahead and remove beneficial effect. You've got Praha here. You've got Juno. This is Esmino to himself. You've got, of course, Soha. This is Garu to himself, right? Heals himself. So there's nothing like Ariel heals, right? Ariel heals a lot. There's nothing, Shushu heals a lot, right? Wusa does continuous recovery. There's nothing that's specifically healing your team while stripping. The only real one that's meta right now is Juno. Lima is phenomenal, so she does that too. And then Praha, I think Praha is a sleeper pick, and I'd like to build her one day. So that really puts Soha at an interesting place in that she both heals and she strips. So the only thing that she's really lacking then is cleanse. So if you bring her alongside with something that is consistently cleansing, like an Ariel, right? Again, it's another water monster, or even like a Fire Panda or something like that, something that is consistently cleansing, then I think she has the opportunity to really shine because she has healing and strip. And of course, upon removal, she adds more Phantom Light to herself. When recovering, though, this is the one that I think is going to really shift up the meta a little bit. When recovering a warrior or an assassin type team member with 70% HP or above, level 1 damage taken down, right? So that warrior or assassin, I'm thinking assassin mostly. I'm going to put Ethna out there for you. Ethna is a very meta pick right now, but she's sort of like a make or break unit. She either works or she doesn't, okay? So Soha here is going to, if that Ethna early on is higher HP, we're going to make sure that Ethna doesn't take as much damage. Then, when we're covering a warrior or assassin type team member below 50% HP, Spell Shield. So Ethna getting rocked, right? And we're beating her down and she's almost dead. And boom, this passive goes off, okay? When we use one of these two skills, okay? When we use one of these two skills to heal, Spell Shield gets put onto that Ethna. That Spell Shield doesn't allow her to take damage or basically any skill that goes off. So let's say like a second pop. Second does her skill 2 and pops the Ethna. Doesn't happen because there is a Spell Shield. Spell Shield is a very unique buff that very few monsters have. This is the one skill and the one set of passives that I think could really shift up the meta a little bit. Ethna is really good, but she's like right there. So I think this monster, Soha, could be really good for a lot of different compositions. This could be good for Cleef. This could be good for pretty much anybody. I think she works for anybody. So she lacks the cleanse, she has the strip, she has the heals, and she's a best friend to warriors and assassins. Now, there's not a ton of warriors and assassins in PvP right now, but I think this can really make them shine. Some really popular warriors in PvP right now. Fang Yang is an extremely popular warrior. Mi Ryong just got a good buff, so Mi Ryong is already pretty good, so popular warrior. Ethna is a very popular assassin right now. There's also the Wind Monkey King. Notice there's a lot of wind here in the warrior department. Ethna and Monkey King here is another very popular warrior that is used in PvP. If Garo wasn't already broken, Garo here will basically be completely unkillable along next to a Soha. He is a warrior type, so he will basically be completely unkillable when there is a Soha present. So you'll have to kill the Soha first. So that is my thoughts on Soha. I think she's pretty good, and I think she has the potential to shift up the meta quite a bit. Lastly is my coin flip. My coin flip is on Arang, Wind Ninetails. And I say this mostly because damage dealers have a really rough spot in the meta right now. Basically, they have to be super tanky in order to stay alive long enough to output enough damage to kill something, right? Typically, damage dealers do best with compositions along with Orbia, but that's not always the case. Cleave can make use of damage dealers as well. So let's take a look. This is her basic skill here. And what I want to do is, before we move on, is like, we got a basic skill. So every time that she attacks, though, check this out. She removes immunity. When attacking, she removes immunity with a 22% chance. So maybe a little attack speed, and every time she's doing her basic attack, boom, she's removing immunity. So this really helps to continue to counter the immunity meta. I don't feel like the immunity meta is as strong as it was. I don't see as many Wusas, and I don't see as many Shushu. So they are going away a little bit, and I think a monster like this can really just kind of seal, put the nail in the coffin for the immunity meta, perhaps. But I'm a little timid about saying that, because we had the same thought about Hellish Blizzard here. We did have the same thought, and again, we don't have a lot of Hellish Blizzards out there because it was a pay-to-win event. Most people, if they have one, don't have her A15 or even skilled up or anything. So we'll have to see. But I haven't seen a whole lot of Hellish Blizzard at all. And when I have, it's not really been effective. So she was supposed to do the same thing with immunity. So I am a little bit timid about saying that she is going to destroy the immunity meta. But that is a big, important part of her kit. Skill 2 here, not a huge deal. Biggest thing here is that she is doing two things. She's increasing her Phantom Light. So again, she's stacking Phantom Light, as well as applying Electric Shock. See, applies Phantom Light to itself and attacks the enemy with glowing spheres 3 times. Each hit has a certain chance to apply Electric Shock. In addition, applies Phantom Light to itself for every Electric Shock applied. All right, so skill 2 here is an important one. She is stacking Phantom Light, right? She's getting that Phantom Light, and she's going to use it later. And this seems to be each hit, let's see, attacks the enemy. So I believe that's a single target. Each hit has a certain chance to apply Electric Shock. So there's a chance to apply 3 electric shocks when doing this. If applying Electric Shock, level 1 Phantom Light. So you could very often instantly get to level 6 Phantom Light just by using skill 1. Let's hop over to skill 2 here. If the caster has level 5, right? So that's the requirement, is level 5. So we just saw 3 plus 3. So let's say that you miss one of the electric shocks. It's pretty common to do that. 5 is a pretty good number. You will very often have 5 Phantom Lights after using skill 2, or skill 1, I should say. So when you have it, this is the big part of her kit here, is this first one right here, 747% of attack as damage. Decent multiplier, but she has built-in destroy runes. She has built-in destroy. So 50% of that damage dealt is going to be destroying that HP. So basically what that means is that as soon as she does damage, there's going to be a yellow bar on the monster, and that yellow bar is going to mean, oh, your maximum health is now less, right? Significantly less. And that's a lot of destroy right there. That is a lot of destroy. So in the meta that we are in, destroy is extremely good because they're longer battles, and the longer the battle, the person with destroy is going to come out on top almost every time. Okay, so we have 5 Phantom Lights, and we're going to use those 5 Phantom Lights to get a little bit more damage. We're also going to remove immunity. Okay, this is an AoE attack right here. Strikes down a Thunderbolt to attack and apply electric shock to enemies within the area. So again, she's going to remove immunity from everybody. So if there's a Wusa, sorry, immunity's gone. And she's going to apply Phantom Light, or she's going to apply electric shock, and she's going to apply electric shock in an AoE. So there's a possibility of landing 4 electric shocks on 4 different people, right? The 3 monsters and the summoner, which then goes back to her passive. If applying electric shock, Phantom Light, or it's not a passive per se, but if applying electric shock, then she gets Phantom Light. I'm not sure if that, so she's applying it here. So she's applying electric shock here in an AoE fashion. Does that work with this level 1 Phantom, or with this if applying electric shock here, where it says if applying electric shock, level 1 Phantom Light? So does she get more Phantom Light stacks by using this skill and applying electric shock? I'm not sure. This is the one that I think, this passive, I think is the one that makes or breaks it for me. There's some really good stuff in here, but they are very conditional. Very conditional, meaning that something has to be a very specific state for it to actually do what it needs to do. So her passive, when attacking, remove immunity. That's cool. Awesome. Bonus hit if the target has burn. So whenever you're doing one of these 2 skills and applying electric shock, so that's, see how this is kind of weirdly written? If electric shock target has burn, there's a bonus attack. Okay. But that's only when using one of these 2 skills and you're applying electric shock. So technically, if you miss electric shock, right, if that electric shock dot doesn't get applied, then this doesn't happen, right? You destroy the target's max HP by 300% of damage. So that's a ton of destroy damage. That is a ton of destroy damage. And if that lands, it's a killer for sure. But the target has to have burn on, and then you have to also hit your electric shock dot. So it's 2 things that have to happen. So you, 1, have to bring a burn monster with you, which there's quite a few that are meta. Tessarion is big, and then Juno is also very big. So those are 2 burn monsters that are very, very meta. There's Orbia's Wind Staff. Orbia's Fire Staff. She doesn't use that too often in PvP. Cleave uses his Fire Staff quite a bit, and Kina sometimes uses her Fire Staff as well. Okay, so that's the one with burn, which I think is the more important one. There's also the frostbite one. So if you apply the electric shock and the target has frostbite, then you have, a little bit more damage, attribute advantage attack, okay? And then defense down. So all good things if the target has frostbite. But again, they have to have frostbite. And there's not a ton of meta monsters that apply frostbite. So let's go to harmful effects here. Let's kind of see who applies frostbite. And right now, the meta monsters that apply frostbite, Tayor, massively meta. You see Theomars a little bit. I rarely see Praha. Maybe she'll come up one day with the immunity meta going away. Maybe Praha will come up. But yeah, it's really just Tayor. Really just Tayor is the only meta monster that's really applying frostbite on a regular basis. So I don't know if that necessarily, I don't know if I would even look at that passive as something that's useful. I can see the burn one for sure. You pair Arang here with your Tessarion, or you pair her with a Juno, and I think you're pretty set to go on that. But again, it's a conditional effect, and it's just not exactly my favorite to have conditional effects, right? I want to know that my monster is doing 100% of its value all the time. So this is my biggest coin flip. I will. I am going to link Kyger's video down below. He actually pulled for the Arang, and so stay tuned with his video, and he talks about this monster quite a bit. And stay tuned a little bit more for Kyger, and I also have some guildmates that pulled for this one as well, and we're going to see how well she performs over time. All right, so I'm not really going to cover the 2 light and dark ones. I'm going to let you guys go and read that. I just know that the dark one, if you get her, congratulations, one of the best damage dealers in the game. That's awesome. So again, I'm not going to cover these because very few people are going to have them. So if I were going to summon on this banner and I had the opportunity to go to full pity on one monster, I am going to choose Soha. I think Soha matches up with my playstyle a little bit more. Shihwa seems to be fully PvE. I just completely skilled up my Vertiheel. He's looking great. I'm clearing Tree of Heroes fine. I don't really need this. And then Arang is a toss-up for me. I don't really run with a ton of like mage monsters or damage dealers too much, so it's like it's hard for me to say go for this one, at least for me, right? But if you're a player that likes to run with more DPS monsters, then I think this can definitely do it for you. The biggest thing with Arang is that she has to be built tankier. She has to be built tanky. Otherwise, she's going to get one shot by a Fire Cleave, but with a Tessarion, or even a Juno, and it's going to stun her, right? And then she's dead. So your DPS, all your DPS have to be built tanky in PvP in order for them to be useful, okay? All right, guys. So like I said, if I were to pull, Soha would be my first choice, Arang would be my second choice, and Shihwa would be my third choice pick. Again, guys, none of these banners are must-have banners, in my opinion. I think they're all tentatively skippable. I don't think they're necessarily meta-breaking. And as usual, if you do decide to skip, they will always be in the exchange shop down below. I've already got my couple of Soha tickets here. So you can always get them another way. All right, guys. I hope that kind of helps out, maybe clear up a little bit of confusion about the monsters, maybe give you some ideas on what to pull for. Again, I know this was like a long-winded video and I'm just sitting there talking, but hopefully you can watch this video, go watch Kyger's video, go watch Childish, go watch Barcode, go watch Shai Sizzo. I'm going to link all of them down in the description. Watch them and decide then what to do with your mystical scrolls. All right, I'm not going to necessarily tell you what to do with your mystical scrolls, because I would hate to tell a free-to-play player, hey, go summon on this monster, and then they end up getting nerfed, or they honestly weren't as good as we thought they were, right? So I don't want that to happen. I want you guys to make your own decisions, but I'm just going to give you kind of my opinions on them, and then I'll link everybody else's opinions down in the description. Okay, guys, I hope this was helpful. Again, if you have any questions or you just want to talk about the monsters or anything Summoners War, link to my Discord is down in the description. That is a massively growing community down there. Lots of people talking about stuff and lots of help as well down in that community. So make sure to hit that link down below and go join the Discord. Like and subscribe for more videos. I go live quite often. I do love doing the live stream, so make sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification so you know when I do go live. All right, guys, as usual, I'm TopherSmurf telling you to keep on gaming.